Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Genesis chapter 24. Let's look at our chapter today. Genesis 24, a bride for Isaac. Now Abraham was old, advanced in age, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in every way. Abraham said to his servant, the oldest of his household, who had charge of all that he had owned, "Please place your hand underneath my thigh, and I will make you swear by the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of earth, that you shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I live. But you will go to my country and to my relatives and take a wife for my son Isaac." The servant said to him, "Suppose the woman is not willing to follow me to this land. Should I take your son back to the land from where you came?" Then Abraham said to him, "Beware that you do not take my son back there. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from my father's house and from the land of my birth, and who spoke to me and who swore to me, saying, 'To your descendants I will give this land,' he will send his angel before you, and you will take a wife for my son from there. But if the woman is not willing to follow you, then you will be free from this my oath. Only do not take my son back there." So the servant placed his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master and swore to him concerning this matter. Then the servant took 10 camels from the camels of his master and set out with a variety of good things of his master's in his hand, and he arose and went to Mesopotamia, to the city of Nahor. He made the camels kneel down outside the city by the well of the water at the evening time, the time when women go out to draw water. He said, "O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, please grant me success today and show loving kindness to my master Abraham. Behold, I am standing by the spring, and the daughters of the men of the city are coming out to draw water. Now may it be that the girl to whom I say, 'Please let down your jar so I may have a drink,' and who answers, 'Drink, and I will water your camels also,' may she be the one who you have appointed for your servant Isaac. And by this I will know that you have shown loving kindness to my master." Rebekah is chosen. Before he had finished speaking, behold, Rebekah, who was born to Bethuel, the son of Milcah, the wife of Abraham's brother Nahor, came out with her jar on her shoulder. The girl was very beautiful, a virgin, and no man had relations with her. And she went down to the spring and filled her jar and came up. Then the servant ran to meet her and said, "Please let me drink a little water from your jar." She said, "Drink, my lord." And she quickly lowered the jar to her hand and gave him a drink. Now when she had finished giving him a drink, she said, "I will draw also for your camels until they have finished drinking." So she quickly emptied her jar into the trough and ran back to the well to draw, and she drew for all his camels. Meanwhile the man was gazing at her in silence, to know whether the Lord had made his journey successful or not. When the camels had finished drinking, the man took a gold ring weighing half a shekel and 2 bracelets for her wrists weighing 10 shekels in gold, and said, "Whose daughter are you? Please tell me. Is there room for us to lodge in your father's house?" So she said to him, "I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bore to Nahor." Again she said to him, "We have plenty of both straw and feed and room to lodge in." Then the man bowed low and worshiped the Lord. He said, "Blessed be the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who has not forsaken his loving kindness and his truth toward my master as for me. The Lord has guided me in the way to the house of my master's brother." Then the girl ran and told her mother's household about these things. Now Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran outside to the man at the spring. When he saw the ring and the bracelets on his sister's wrist, and when he heard the words of Rebekah his sister saying, This is what the man said to me, he went to the man, and behold, he was standing by camels at the spring. And he said, Come in, blessed of the Lord. Why do you stand outside, since I have prepared the house and a place for your camels? So the man entered the house. Then Laban unloaded the camels, and he gave straw and feed to the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the men who were with him. But when food was set before him to eat, he said, I will not eat until I have told my business. And he said, Speak on. So he said, I am Abraham's servant. The Lord has greatly blessed my master so that he may become rich, and he has given him flocks and herds and silver and gold and servants and maids and camels and donkeys. Now Sarah, my master's wife, bore a son to my master in her old age, and he has given him all that he has. My master made me swear, saying, You shall not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites, in whose land I live. But you shall go to my father's house and to my relatives, and take a wife for my son. I said to my master, Suppose the woman doesn't follow me. He said to me, The Lord before whom I have walked will send an angel with you, and to make your journey successful, and you will take a wife from my son. You will take a wife for my son from my relatives and from my father's house. Then you will be free from my oath when you come to my relatives, and if they do not give her to you, you will be free from my oath. So I came today to the spring and said, O Lord, the God of my master Abraham, if now you will make my journey on which I go successful, behold, I am standing by the spring, and may it be that the maiden who comes out to draw, and to whom I say, Please let me drink a little water from your jar, and she will say to me, You drink, and I will draw for your camels also. Let her be the woman whom my Lord has appointed for my master's son. Before I had finished speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came out with her jar on her shoulder and went down to the spring and drew. And I said to her, Please let me drink. She quickly lowered her jar from her shoulder and said, Drink, and I will water your camels also. So I drank, and she watered the camels also. Then I asked her and said, Whose daughter are you? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's wife, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bore to him. And I put the ring on her nose and the bracelets on her wrist. And I bowed low and worshiped the Lord, and blessed the Lord, the God of my master Abraham, who had guided me in the right way to take the daughter of my master's kinsman for his son. So now if you're going to deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me, and if not, let me know, that I might turn to the right hand or the left. Then Laban and Bethuel replied, The matter comes from the Lord, so we cannot speak to you bad or good. Here is Rebekah before you. Take her and go, and let her be the wife of your master's son, as the Lord has spoken. When Abraham's servant heard their words, he bowed himself to the ground before the Lord. The servants brought out articles of silver and articles of gold and garments and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave precious things to her brother and to her mother. Then he and the men who were with him ate and drank and spent the night. When they arose in the morning, he said, Send me away to my master. But her brother and her mother said, Let the girl stay with us a few days, say 10, afterwards she may go. He said to them, Do not delay me, since the Lord has prospered my way. Send me away that I may go to my master. And they said, We will call the girl and consult her wishes. Then they called Rebekah and said to her, Will you go with this man? And she says, I will go. Thus they sent away their sister Rebekah and her nurse with Abraham's servant and his men. They blessed Rebekah and said to her, May you, our sister, become thousands of 10,000s, and may your descendants possess the gate of those who hate them. Then Rebekah arose with her maids, and they mounted the camels and followed the man. So the servant took Rebekah and departed. Isaac marries Rebekah. Now Isaac had come from going to Beer-lahai, for he was living in the Negev. Isaac went out to mediate in the field toward evening, and he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, camels were coming. Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, she dismounted from the camel. She said to the servant, "Who is this man walking in the field to meet us?" And the servant said, "He is my master." Then she took her veil and covered herself. The servant told Isaac all the things that he had done. Then Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Thus Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. And that concludes chapter 24. Okay, let's go inside the text. Now, it showed in here was speaking of the servant in verse 2, servant, the oldest of his household. We see here his name was Eliezer. Eliezer, at 85 years of age, had risen to steward or chief of the staff, a position of substantial authority, as indicated later on. He would have received all of Abraham's wealth if he had no son. Yet when Isaac was born, the inheritance became Isaac's. So not only was he loyally served his master despite having been displaced by another heir, he also faithfully served that heir. It said he asked him, he was placing his hand under his thigh to take an oath, a solemn pledge mentioning the Lord's name and formalized by an accepted customary gesture indicated just how serious an undertaking this was in Abraham's eyes. At his age, Abraham was concerned to perpetuate his people and God's promise to the next generation, so he covenanted with his servant to return to Mesopotamia and bring back a wife for Isaac. Let's see. And down here, later on, I said he refused his son going. I said, "Don't take my son back there." Should the expected scenario materialize, like in verse 5, then that dictates the oaths were lifted, but the option of Isaac was rejected because it suggested a nullification of God's promise and calling to the land. It needed to be provincial. It should have been because God had his hands on it. He couldn't manipulate it, like if they'd have seen each other and fell in love or something. It was by a choice. He will send an angel before you, a statement of Abraham's faith that the 450-mile expedition to Mesopotamia was clearly under divine oversight. So 450 miles back then, this was no short trip. This was going to take a while. And let's see, we had, it showed that once the steward had prayer manifest not only in his trust in God to direct affairs, but also his selflessness with which he served Abraham, his patience after prayer, his worship at answered prayer, and acknowledgement of divine guidance also portrayed his faith. So Eliezer was very much a man of faith as well. And so, we see that this is their set. Otherwise, you're setting out on a journey, which you take out any of the time in between, that's a 900-mile trip that he's going to take before he ever gets back. Let's see, water your camels also. Is hospitality required giving water to a thirsty stranger, but not to animals? A woman who would do this unusually kind and serve beyond the call of duty. So this was going to say this was a very generous deal, and especially since a single camel can hold up to 25 gallons, and he had 10 of them. Serving them was a great task as she filled them all. So in the verses, it seemed like it happened very quickly, but he got a drink, and then she continued to fill this trough, 250 gallons for the most part. So that was quite a bit of work that she did on that as well. Another point down as we were getting down towards the end, notice that to mediate, when it's talking about later, was how God drew Isaac from his home. So they said they had come together. Isaac was out in the field when they were actually arriving back. How God drew Isaac from the home to where Hagar encountered the angel of the Lord. So it wasn't in a particular, it was in a specific spot that he actually did meet her, remains unknown. But he was in the right place to meet the caravan returning with his fiancée. Perhaps he was prayerfully contemplating the circumstances of his life and the void left by his mother's death. Remember, Rebecca had died recently, but you're still talking about a 900-mile trip by the time she'd come back. So he was still mourning his mother, thinking about and hoping the steward would not return from a failed mission. When she saw him, she covered her face. That was a convention. Convention demanded and designated bride veil her face in the presence of her betrothed until the wedding day. It said from that point he took him into her, and he specified his mother's tent. He thus established his acceptance of her as his wife before he had seen her beauty. When he did see her, he fell in love with her. Abraham's son Keturah, a wife of a lower status than Sarah, became the progenitors of various Arab tribes to the east of Canaan. So we see now at this point, Isaac and Rebekah will be wed at that point in time. And that concludes all of chapter 24. Hope to see you back for chapter 25.